How's it going, everybody? Today we're working on the Subaru. So in my last video that featured the Subaru, I had just gotten the new engine in and everything seemed to be functioning pretty well. But there were a few issues with the setup that I had going. Number one, the turbo that I had was on its last leg. It was a junkyard turbo, so I needed to swap out the core for that pretty quickly. Number two, the exhaust was terrible. There were a lot of leaks and I was using a cheap version of fiberglass exhaust wrap, and that needed to be switched out for something better. Today I'm going to be using a ceramic coating that is in an aerosol can to go over everything with a base, and then I might wrap it later on, but I won't be doing that in this video. Number three, I need to do an air pump delete on this engine. Now, this engine came out of a 2007 WRX, and that came factory with an air pump that pumps air into the exhaust for emissions purposes to kind of heat up the catalytic converters earlier. This car does not come with that from the factory, so in order to resolve this, I need to put air pump block-off plates on the back of each of the heads on this engine. I bought a block-off plate kit, and we're going to be installing that today as well. Number four, I'm going to be installing better engine mounts in the car. I'm going to be going with a stiffer Group N mount that is usually used on STIs and fits up to this engine perfectly. Number five is also a mod. I'm going to be upgrading to silicone radiator hoses. I got a really good deal on some used ones, so I'm going to just swap those in while the engine's out and everything. So these are the new hoses that we're going to be using. One's a Mishimoto, one's a Samco. I kind of screwed up on that one. Oh well. I didn't order them at the same time. Don't really care. They should do the job just fine. And I got them both for stupid cheap. So these are going on the car. These are going in the bin. These are the mounts that we're going to be using. They are Group N OEM Subaru mounts. These are the mounts that I had in the car while the engine was in it. This will actually be the second time that I've replaced these mounts because the first ones that I had were completely trashed, and so I got these off of a junkyard car while I was waiting for these to get shipped in because, I don't know, they took a million years to get here. So while I was waiting for these to come in, I put these on the car just to kind of get it in and get it tested. These work fine, but I was always going to upgrade to Group N mounts from the beginning, so I'm going to put these in the car while I've got the engine out. These are air pump block-off plates. These will just get bolted right to the back of the engine where the air pump used to go. Alright, this is my custom exhaust manifold. It is just stock exhaust, but I did weld these two things together because on my original exhaust, this part went bad, like this joint. So I got one from a junkyard, but unfortunately the flanges had warped in ways that I couldn't get to work correctly, and it kept leaking on the exhaust side. So what I ended up doing is bolting it up to the car, tacking it in place, cutting off the parts that I didn't need, welding around, and now this works without any exhaust leaks. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this VHT flame-proof ceramic coating paint. I already used it on this up pipe and it worked amazing. So we're going to do the rest of the exhaust and then we'll put that on the car.
Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get this block-off plate installed.
So the previous owner of this engine had snapped the bolts off in the holes here, so I had to drill and re-tap these. So they're not perfectly on center, but they'll at least do the job. All right, and now for the other side. Well, I tried recording a time lapse of me putting this turbo on, but it didn't seem to record for some reason. But there's the turbo. There is the new turbo core in there. Let me show you the old turbo core. So this is the old turbo core, and you can see that there is a tiny amount of play in the. Actually, it's more than a tiny amount. It's a fair amount of play. Let's see if I can hold this still. Not so good. So that is why I went with a cheapo eBay turbo. Hopefully that turbo won't be on there for very long because I want to upgrade to a VF52, but we'll see about that down the line. So here's the exhaust manifold, all painted up. It needs another hour or so to dry, so we're going to let it dry, but we're going to put the engine in the meantime. All right, so we got the engine in. It is bolted up, and now we just need to get the cooling system and everything in. All right, now that the paint is cured on the exhaust manifold, we're going to put that in the car. All right, so everything is installed. Now all we got to do is put fluids in it, drop it on the ground, and we'll see where she starts. When I originally started it up, there was a bit of a weird noise, but it turned out to just be the power steering pump. I needed to bleed it, so I just turned it lock to lock a couple of times, and everything works out fine now. So now all we need to do is take it for a test drive. All right, it's been a couple of days. I haven't had a chance to drive the Subaru yet, except for moving it out into the driveway. When I moved it out into the driveway, I noticed there was a pretty pronounced exhaust leak, and that's because I have a 3-inch NVIDIA downpipe and it doesn't mate up perfectly to the stock catback. So I'm going to install this Mishimoto exhaust flange adapter, and then we're going to take it out for a drive. Now, the only reason that this is necessary is because on the 3-inch downpipe, it just opens up to a 3-inch 2-bolt flange. But on the catback end, it's a 2.5-inch. And the stock downpipe has this lip built into it to accept a donut gasket, like that. So what this does, essentially, is it just bridges the gap between the 3-inch downpipe, which will use this gasket on this side here, and then the 2.5-inch downpipe with the factory style gasket here. All right, let's go throw it on the car. All right, so first let's start the car and I'll show you what the exhaust leak sounds like. That's not good. Well, my camera died while I was recording that. It said it got too hot, so yeah, it's pretty hot out. But anyway, it's in now, so let's hear what it sounds like. Look at that. No more exhaust leak. Let's take this for a drive. All right. No AC, so we're gonna power these windows down and let's go. Woo! Okay, that boy's quick. Damn. And it's quiet now too. Jeez. Could barely even hear it running.